Hello! I'm recording my video for you guys today from Washington DC, and I gotta say that I love the city. Yeah, I mean, it's not my first time being in DC, definitely not. But I guess that I always came here as a tourist and I went to touristy places, which are all nice, but I guess that I never really got to experience DC like a true local until this time that I'm intentionally trying to. So I love taking myself to local restaurants and bars and, you know, yoga classes and I love it. So as you can probably tell, I'm in a very good mood, but I want to talk to you guys about something that has been kind of like one of my existential crises. And the reason why I want to talk to you guys about this topic today is because literally I was struggling with it before I decided to record this video. And the topic I want to talk to you guys about today is overthinking. How to cope with overthinking. Yeah. And you know what's funny? Initially I just wanted to record a video on a different topic for you guys today, and then all of a sudden my mind was flooded with so many ideas. And by the way, that's kind of like the pattern I have noticed about myself, is that I can get overwhelmed easily by all the things going on in my head, because I get fascinated by ideas very quickly, but then because one thing leads to another, and yeah, it caused the overwhelm for me when I transition from thinking to overthinking very quickly. So that's why I almost wanted to stop recording the video today, because I realized that I became indecisive of what I should go for, because it escalated from one idea to like 20 ideas very quickly in my head. But then what happened is that I also got off the phone with someone who's so dear to me, and shared with me that she was overwhelmed by, you know, the thought that she had in her head, not necessarily saying that they were true, but she was afraid, what if her thoughts or her speculations are true. Speculation. I'm losing my English. Yeah. Anyway, So that's why it made me realize that there's another type of overthinking, and that's also something that I struggled with a lot as well, you know, because it may appear that I don't overthink because I know that I may come across as being spontaneous and impulsive. Sometimes I'm very well aware of myself. But the truth is, I am the mother of overthinking, if you don't know by now. Let me give you an example, okay, so that you get what I'm saying. So, for example, if I activate my overthinking ability, I could easily feel the anxiety of questioning myself. Oh my god, what about my English? Oh my god, what about my accent? What if people make fun of me? What if I forget what I'm supposed to say. What if I say something wrong? What if someone turn what I'm saying and remove the context to twist it into something else that is not good for me? What if people realize that I'm not wearing any makeup? What if people question why she always wears gym clothes on vlogs? Yeah, I can go on and on and on, you guys. And if I activate my overthinking ability, I swear to you, I would never have started doing anything, because I would be so consumed with all of these irrational fear and thoughts that only exist in my head. You know, not saying that they, well, yeah, to defend myself, not saying that they are completely irrational or unreasonable, but this is the kind of things that I know they, you know, like people don't, like not many people actually care about it, you know. I know that even if I know that there's a chance that what I'm doing or what I'm about to do will fail, you know, like, or can be seen as silly. Like, what if people notice that I barely have 30 subscribers on YouTube? And what if no one likes my video, you know? All of these what ifs are not completely irrational, but I have to come to terms with myself that they are just not helpful for me. And there are two types of overthinking. One is overthinking causing inaction. And the second one is overthinking causing negative thoughts. And both of them are not really helpful for us, you know. I do think that there's a benefit of thinking carefully. That's different. Thinking carefully is helpful, and I think that we should do it, you know. We should practice being thoughtful. But overthinking is a different level. It is not helpful. Sorry, I'm trying to trying to check on where I'm supposed to go now, which is why I am completely distracted. Okay, never mind, just gonna wing it. Another reason to explore the city. But you know, oh, this way. You know, so the first one, overthinking causing inaction. What I mean is, obviously, you heard my example about today, or yeah, the last few days when I had when I had an idea of what I want to talk to you guys this week, and because the ideas in my head developed so quickly, I immediately got overwhelmed, and I became indecisive of what I should go for, and I almost wanted to just not do it at all, you know. That's my tendency, by the way. I know it's hard to tell, but I just want you to know the real fact about me, that I get overwhelmed easily. But then I always remember there's a lesson that my marketing professor in college taught me at the time when I was in college. I was about to graduate. I came here as an international student to the US as an international student, and you know, at that time I didn't have any kind of security or offer to stay in the US and work, but I already got a job offer to stay in Japan and work in Japan, and I was so confused what I should do next. And yeah, and I think that's kind of like the paradox of choices. When you have options, you know, when you have too many options, because my other options is to continue studying in the US. By the way, I'm very thankful for that. So definitely did not take it for granted. But that time I was debating if I should take the risk of staying in the US and turn down the offer to work in Japan, where I could have gained my security already, you know, and it's also a great offer, by the way. So it's a good job at a very good company, and I shared that with my professor to ask for his advice. And what he told me is a lesson that I carry with me until today. He told me to write down my 3 options on 3 pieces of paper and hang them on the wall and throw a dart. You know, just throw a dart to the wall and see which one I hit or which one is closest to be hit. And I just thought to myself, like, oh my God, why would I do that, you know? Because then I leave one of the biggest decisions in my life to complete random luck. So I didn't do it. But as I was reflecting on what he was saying, I realized that there's so much depth in it, you know? Because I had to go through that process internally within myself. I know that what he was advising me wasn't literally just make a game out of it, but rather for me to go through that process to reflect on, okay, if I actually do it, why am I afraid of leaving it to random selection? And why would I feel hesitant to do it? Which allows me to understand, without throwing the dart, to understand which one that I'm afraid of losing the most, you know, out of the 3 options. Which one that I was afraid of losing the most. And I realized that, you know, I really wish that I didn't lose the option to stay in the US. Even though at that time I didn't have any security, you know, there's no guarantee that I would even have a job after I graduate. So it was a risk that I decided to take, but I did have to go through that process of tapping into my intuition to understand what speaks to me the most. And on the other hand, even if I didn't know what speaks to me the most out of the options that I have, what I could have done is to literally just pick one out of the 3 and give it a try. And if it didn't turn out to be what I wanted to be, then I would still have the option of, you know, of moving forward in my life with something else that I might have not known at that time. So that's how I've learned to cope with my tendency to overthink. And this tendency is something that I have to admit that I haven't really overcome it yet, and I don't think I will ever really overcome overthinking. I think that it's just a pattern that will keep happening to me again and again, but at least I know how to cope with it, you know. And what I always remind myself is when I think about for example, when I think about all the fear that I have if I decide to film a vlog today, and allow myself to be completely vulnerable and unfiltered with you guys, I remind myself that I'm really not that famous. Who cares? You know, like I'm not a celebrity or anything. Who cares? Because I think that most of the time we assume that other people criticize us a lot more than we do to ourselves, but oftentimes that's not true. I think most of the time, and especially for perfectionists like me, or if you guys are like me, you should know this. No one think about us as much as we do when it comes to our flaws. Yeah, I'm actually proud of myself to even come to that realization, because it's hard for me, very, very hard, guys. Yeah, that's how I cope with, you know, my overthinking when it prevent me from taking action. And not to mention, you know, what I can share with you from my experience is the more that I do, the more that I learn along the way. So in a sense, you know, if I'm too afraid of taking action because I overthink it, I wouldn't be learning any of the things that I've learned throughout that whole process of trying out stuff, you know, trying to do new things and experimenting, not just with the projects or the ideas in my mind, but also with myself. I want to experiment myself to see what kind of version I can create of myself. You know, and it brings that excitement of knowing that you can always be renewed, that nothing is the end of the world, that whatever action that you're taking will be better than not doing anything at all. And you live and you learn, you know. Also, this is, by the way, I'm sharing this, but please do not take it as my advice. More like what I have learned from my personal experience for myself is when I go with my gut, when I go with my intuition, and when I make a snap decision, they usually tend to be the best decisions that I've ever made in my life, you know. So instead of if I overthink something and if I spend too much time trying to evaluate what's good and what's not good, DC is usually not this loud, but this reminds me of New York City. Okay, I think that you guys can hear me better now. Yeah, so what I was going to say is, when you know that you have a strong intuition, tap into your intuition, you know? I don't think that gut feeling is completely random. I believe that gut feeling is based on trained experience. So the more experience that you have, the more wisdom you gain, and the better your gut feeling will be, or the more the sharper your instinct will be. So that is heightened instinct. And I know for a fact that when I rely, usually when I rely on my heightened instinct, it works out for me much better than if I overthink in my head. But the reason why I had to caveat that this is not my advice for you guys is because I don't want to say something as like a one size fit all when I'm not sure, you know, how much you're in tune with your intuition, because that's something that I have to train myself to build my intuition over time. So, you know, I think it's completely normal and actually great to spend time thinking things through by asking people for advice, feedback, you know, gathering data, doing your research before making any decision, if that's usually what works out for you the best. But throughout that time, just make sure that you reflect, you know, do a lot of reflection, because that's going to help you build your intuition. Yeah, you know what's best for you. And so that's number one. Number two is overthinking causing negative thoughts. And by the way, this can be very unhealthy for mental health. I was walking randomly and then it's still going towards the right direction. So proud of myself. Right. Negative thoughts. Yeah, you know, it's easy to fall into this trap. I'm also not immune to this either. There are many times that I kind of like speculate things in my head from one thing to another, and you know, kind of like pretending I'm the detective that I can link everything together and make sense of everything in my life and of the people. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Based on real information. That's the thing. That's the trap, because I think that is also, well, at the same time, I think it's human nature, you know, through evolution, you know, to be, you know, to build this defensive mechanism so that we can protect ourselves. And I don't think that is uncommon to have negative thoughts from overthinking. But for example, if someone, I'm just making this up, but if someone doesn't respond to me or ignore my text, I could have thought that this person might intentionally ignore me, or they think that they are better than me, or what else? Or they want me to feel bad about myself because they want me to know that I'm not seen by leaving me on scene, for example, without replying. Yeah, that's possible. But what I learned to understand is, just remind myself that everyone has priorities, and things get overlooked. People forget. And I think it's better to always give people the benefit of a doubt. If you ever feel triggered by your emotions because of so and so, just remember that what you're thinking might be true, but it doesn't mean that what you don't know isn't totally impossible. And I trained myself to always give people the benefit of a doubt when I'm triggered by my negative thoughts, because I know it's not good for me. I think that throughout the years, many years, I know that it's one of the reasons why I build up that self-doubt a lot because of these negative thoughts, so it's not purely external. A lot of it, I had to admit to myself that a lot of it is my internal thinking, like what's going on in my head, causing me the self-doubt that I have. So I had to hold myself accountable to change that, what I'm always mindful of, or at least try to be mindful of, is not having a victim mindset. And it has helped me a lot when I am able to change that, and I have to self-talk to myself a lot to remind myself of my worth, but also of the counter argument to my negative thoughts when I overthink. Almost like I debate with myself whenever I'm triggered by the negative thoughts that I have from overthinking. That's my way of coping with it. And at the same time, I talk to myself by saying, honey, why are you doing this to yourself? You know, literally, that's literally what I've been telling myself whenever I'm triggered by negative thoughts. I always ask myself, honey, why are you doing this to yourself? Isn't life already hard enough? Why do you want to think negative? You know? And by having this conversation with myself and zooming out to debate with myself on my own negative thought, that's probably even more overthinking, but in a good way, because I spend more time thinking it through, my overthinking, to really come to terms with myself that that I can remove my ego from it, you know? I think a lot of the time when we overthink, we allow our ego to be inflated. Because that's when we got caught up with the motives of people, or the, you know, delusional things that we create in our own mind, that trigger us. So instead of going with my pattern, instead of allowing my thoughts control me, I've trained myself to navigate my thoughts and regulate my emotions. It's a very important skill set in life, guys. I think emotional regulations and thought navigations are highly underrated, you know? And hopefully I can provide you guys with more content on this kind of stuff as I'm just talking it through with you guys. In another video. But yeah, but when we overthink, it doesn't really play into our favor, you know? Doesn't play to our favor. And and there's another techniques that I do for myself when I overthink is I actually allow myself to go with it. When I know that I cannot control something, when I know that I cannot control my overthinking tendency, I actually also allow myself to just overthink everything. And I allow my mind to go straight to the worst scenario. I always think of the worst scenario in any situation. I do. It's funny because a lot of people think that I'm so positive, you know, which I don't think is wrong, but what I think a lot of people don't recognize is that for me to be positive is actually because I acknowledge my negative thoughts. You know, I don't discard any of them. I do acknowledge all my negative thoughts. And what I do is think about all the worst scenarios that could have happened so that I can prepare plan B, plan C, plan D, probably all the way through to plan Z. If that actually happens, you know, if for some reason the worst scenarios does end up happening or coming true, I am prepared for that worst scenario. And I think just coming to terms with creating peace within yourself when you think about the worst case scenario that something could have happened is another way to cope with it. That's how I do it. Truthfully, I think of the worst case scenarios and sit with it and tell myself that I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay even if all of this crazy stuff that I'm thinking in my head end up happening. I will be okay. Well, I hope that my rambling makes sense to you guys. And yeah. And I don't think that I can give you guys, I guess, a more real example of how I cope with my overthinking than just keeping this video raw and real for you guys, because this is literally how I'm coping with it. And by exposing my thought process with you guys, I hope that it gives you another perspective on life, and embrace that humanness in us, that none of us is perfect, and overthinking is just a protecting mechanism that we built for ourselves because of evolution and defense, and that's not necessarily a negative thing either. Just remind yourself that you are in control of your reaction to a situation, no matter what action you take. You are always in control of changing that, and making it your own. So I'm gonna stop my chat with you guys here, because I also need to really focus on trying to get to the actual destination I'm planning to go to. So I will... Okay, wait. Before I actually say goodbye to you guys, I always forgot this every time when I did my video. But can you please share with me what you're overthinking about at the moment? And you can either share it by commenting below, or send me a DM, send me a direct message. Let's see if I can help. Yes, this is also how I cope with overthinking, guys, because I know I'm gonna forget something. I know, but we can always fix it. So I will talk to you guys again soon. Cheers, guys.